Hey everybody, this is Carrie Bernstein, Executive Director at Stand for Animals Veterinary Clinic, and we're here today for another episode of our new web series called The Fix. And we're glad that you're tuning in, and this gives you guys a chance to get a little bit of an inside view into what happens at a nonprofit veterinary clinic on a weekly basis. And we're going to talk about a variety of topics that deal with the clinic and other issues that we think are important and relevant and might be of interest to you as a pet owner. And if you like what we're doing, we'd love for you to subscribe, share it with your friends, and give us a thumbs up because we'd like to be able to have more and more people participate with us, because this is a chance for us to talk to you. And also because it's a webcast, it gives you a chance to actually talk to us. So you can send questions or comments in our chat box, which is below. And we really want this to be interactive. So take advantage of the technology and reach out to us if you have questions or have something that you really want to say that you think is important. So today we're going to do something that's just a little bit different, and it's really just going to be me talking about something that has been in the news lately that we think would be of interest to you as a pet owner and to our wider audience. So I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but last week there was a really big, prominent front page article in the New York Times about feral cats in Australia called "Australia is Deadly Serious About Killing Millions of Cats." So obviously a very provocative title, and one that, you know, for those of us who care about these things, very interested in reading. And there's going to be a link to the article below, so make sure if you want to read the full article, it was really well done and very well researched. Make sure you go ahead and check it out. But basically what the article was talking about was the fact that the feral cat population in Australia has gotten completely out of control because they have never really tried to manage it. And the article, you know, basically the person who wrote it is out in Australia with folks who are working on what to do with the fact that there are between 2 and 6 million feral cats in Australia right now. And in case you don't understand, a feral cat is basically a cat that's born outside, doesn't have an owner, and lives outside and has to survive outside. And what's happened in Australia is that the cat population there, obviously 2 to 6 million cats, has gotten way out of control. And now these cats, in order to survive, are killing off all of the small native species. And the government has chosen to address this issue by actively trying to kill these cats. And, you know, I'm sure you, as I, and reading this, you know, when I was reading it, completely horrified by reading about the fact that they're putting out, you know, sausages that are filled with poison, and they're allowing people to shoot these cats with bows and arrows, and they have allowed there to be sort of an open hunting season to try to eradicate the problem. And it sounds terrible, and it is terrible, but you have to also weigh kind of what are they supposed to do, because these cats are overrunning the country and they are creating many problems with the native species. And so it's really hard when you find yourself in that situation. And I'd encourage you to read the article and think about it, because it is a moral kind of conundrum. But in terms of how is that relevant to us here in the United States and to us here at Stand for Animals, the reason that it's relevant is because we also deal with these cats. Now, we don't call them feral cats anymore. There was a time when we called them feral cats. We don't call them that anymore because the word feral has a connotation of this wild, crazy cat that, you know, when you talk about them, people say, oh, that cat, if I see that cat could kill me. Well, it's not really the case. They're really, as I said earlier, they're cats that live outside and survive outside. And we have chosen to not call them that anymore. We call them community cats. And the reason that we call them that is because in many places where these cats are living outside, they are living and doing fine and not interfering with human or other animal populations. And there are many cases in which these cats are being taken care of by a community cat, a person who goes out every day and feeds them and tries to help and take care of them. So we call them community cats, and we understand that without the right population control, these cats you could have in Australia here. And so we actively try to fix them. And we have a program here at the clinic where we provide these services for people and try to help them make that happen so that we can fix them. They can continue to live outside, but they're not producing litters and litters and litters of cats. And it's interesting about the timing of the article in the New York Times, because an article just came out this week about euthanasia in North Carolina, and that's also going to be linked below, and also something I would encourage everybody to read, because we're making a lot of progress in North Carolina in terms of euthanasia, but it's not pretty. And part of the reason that it's not pretty here in North Carolina is because of the numbers of cats who end up euthanized in the shelter. And right now, 44% of cats that go into shelters end up not making it out alive, and many of those cats are these community cats that I'm talking about. And the reason that you can't adopt them is because they're not really handleable. They live outside. They're not used to having a lot of human contact. They have contact with their caregivers, but that's otherwise no other people interact with them. And so they're not able to be adopted. So the strategy to make this work is obviously to fix them. So no surprise that you hear me talking about spay-neuter, because that's why we got into this business to begin with back in 2011. We knew there was a problem with euthanasia, and we knew we could solve it by fixing as many pets as we could, because that's a strategy to solve the issue and solve it before it becomes a problem in the shelter. And community cats also need to be fixed, but it's a different way to do that. So for the public, we invite you to make an appointment and come in and bring your dog or cat. When we're talking about a community cat, which can't be handled, you need to bring them to us in a trap. And while that sounds inhumane, it really isn't, because they don't want to be handled. And when you bring them in a trap to us, we can anesthetize them through the trap, and then we don't have to interact with them while they're awake. And we actually have one of our snippets, which are these little educational videos that we're doing to help you be a better pet owner. We actually just posted a snippet on how to set a community cat trap, and we walk you through the steps. So if you're somewhere where you see these cats living outside and you're concerned that they might start reproducing, and keep in mind, if they start reproducing, one cat can produce 2 to 3 litters of 4 to 5 cats every single year. So you can imagine how in Australia, it started out, at some point in the 1700s with 2 community cats, and it's now grown to 6 million. Perfect case in point about how this all can happen. If you're living somewhere where you see them, we would encourage you to get a trap from us. We lend them out to people. Watch our video, or we're happy to instruct you if you come into the clinic. Trap them and bring them in, and we'll fix them at a discounted rate. We also include vaccines in that. So it's a way to solve this problem. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the box below, and we'll be happy to answer them. And we want to show you a little visual here. So after we fix a community cat, we do something called an ear tip. And if you look closely at my little cat friend here, Mel, you can see that his ear has been tipped. And what that means is after the surgery process, we snip off the end of the ear. And that sounds horrible and painful and terrible, but the truth is it really isn't terrible and painful. It heals very, very quickly. And the greater good is that if you see a cat who has this, what you know visually very quickly is this is a cat that's been fixed. And so when there are people out there who are, from the animal control or wherever they may be, if they see a cat that's identified by this ear tip, they know they're fixed, and they won't pick them up again. And if you see one, then you know it's one that you don't need to trap because it's already been fixed. So that's our little webcast today about an issue that's happening somewhere else, but also has implications here where we are, and we hope that you'll continue to stay tuned. We just had a question from Adam about, do these cats kill a lot of birds? And there's a lot of data around this, and folks who are bird advocates tend to be very biased about cats living outside, and the numbers that they have cited about what community cats do and how they decimate, wild bird populations are pretty extreme. We don't necessarily buy into that. Killing a bird, while you know, it may sound like it's an easy thing to do, and cats definitely have a prey drive, and that's definitely something that they might want to do. It's not as easy as it sounds, and it certainly isn't a great way to have a lot of sustenance. So while we know it is an issue, we also truly believe that these cats have a right to live outside and be taken care of, and as long as we control the population, it works. We had another question by Shayna about should they be fed. And you know, if you are in a position where you can feed a cat that's living outside, we are going to say that is the absolute humane thing to do. And if you need food, we have food available here in our food pantry. And we would encourage you to be a caretaker and take care of this creature that's living outside. The thing you have to understand is that once you start feeding them, they're going to come back. Cats are smart, and particularly cats that live outside are very smart. And once they figure out there's a food source, they will go back to it. So once you commit, you kind of have to commit to doing it. But if you can, we would say it is the right thing to do. So thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, make sure you tell your friends, and post your questions. Next week, we're going to do another interview segment where we're going to kind of ask the doctor anything that you might want to know, and we'd be happy for you to send us stuff so that we can respond directly to you. And again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.